All right, so Tigers. Gator, this offense might be the worst I've seen dating back to the beginning of last year. When I remember us talking about the pace they were on, how historically bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they bottomed out at 9-24 on May 7th. Today is May 5th. So we're getting close to where they were the worst of last year.
They also started a week and a half earlier than this season did. So I'm saying record-wise.
I'm aware, right?
Oh, well.
Yes. So they were the worst they were last year is coming up in 2 days. Now, this year they're 8-15. A year ago at this time they were 7-16. By that I mean through 23 games. They were on a 5-game losing streak. All right, when they shortly thereafter they'd scored through 23 games last year, leading up to the 23 game mark, they scored 6 runs in 5 games. 6 runs in 5 games. And shortly thereafter, they scored 40 runs in 6 games and started to come out of this slumber. I mean, it'd be pretty amazing if the same thing was right around the corner for this team. There are a lot of differences between this year and last year. Last year, some of the young arms were getting lit up, and this year their young arms aren't pitching much because Mize and Manning. Skubal was one that was getting lit up. He has settled down. Yesterday, the Tigers were gifted a game. They were gifted 2 runs with 2 errors in the first game.
Yeah, it makes up for the Twins' loss.
Kind of, yeah, I suppose.
It exactly
but
does.
But the point is, they're not scoring.
They're not.
The runs that they pushed across to win the first game yesterday were gifted to them. And so as much as it was nice to get a win, anybody who watched the game or was at the game or listened to the game knows what happened. Pittsburgh made some uncharacteristic poor, 2 errors in 1 inning, a 2-base error that caused a couple of runs to score. And the bottom line here is this offense right now is pathetic. They can't come up with timely hits. They don't string them together. There was a game in L.A. where I think 8 of the 9 innings they had a runner on base. 8 of the 9 innings they put runners on base and scored 1 run. Like they are not.
If they're hitting, they're not getting timely hitting.
It was as sporadic as it could be, and it's just a really, really tough watch.
It feels like the few times they've gotten hits have been some timely hits, whether it was coming back late in the game, and the Javi Baez is responsible for all of them. Yeah. But you're right, it's pathetic at this point. They played 23 games, they have 10 home runs. They played 23 games, they have 4 stolen bases. I mean, they have 4 stolen. This is a team that was 3rd or 4th in baseball last year in steals. Now, and they've got 4?
Here's the deal. We know that it's going to get better because it can't possibly be this bad offensively all season long. There's too much of a track record. It's not like this is a team filled with guys debuting and we don't know anything about them. Jonathan Scope is a mess right now, right? I mean, he's just a mess.
He's hitting $130 or something, yeah.
And, things will correct. And when they do, they'll catch fire like they did last year. It's just when you're in it, it feels like there's no end. There's another feeling like this in sports. I swear to God, I don't know why these two sports lend to it. But the other one's during Big Ten basketball season when your team loses like 3 in a row, you're convinced, oh, we're never winning again. Like that's the fan. You get in the middle of a Big Ten basketball season, it feels like you can get that feeling you're never winning again. And for the Tigers here, it just feels like, are they ever going to come out of this slump? And they will. They will. They will. I swear they will. They always do. In the moment, there's no evidence that it's going to happen, but it just does.
Well, that's the nature of baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as bad as they are, record-wise, they're not as bad as they were last year to start. They need to pick things up to ensure that that's not going to be the case. But always looking for something positive. Jeimer Candelario, in his last 4 games, has 6 hits. He's 6 for 14 in his last 4 games with a home run and 2 doubles. That's positive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his fielding has been hit or miss, it feels like, this year. But for the most part, he's been okay. But the batting is where he needs to pick it up. He has. That's good. Unfortunately, You've got so many players in this team that are not. Scope has been terrible. $136 on the season. Had a tough doubleheader yesterday. And with him, it's gotten to the point where I just throw my hands up and I say, okay, we need a new face there. We need somebody else to play second base. Scope needs to come off the bench, or he needs to go back to the minors, or he needs to be released or waived, whatever the case is. Something has to happen. And it's not that I want to be punitive. It's just that you need something different. And something different isn't necessarily pick your Castro at second base. I think it's time that you bring up Cody Clemens.
Might be.
Who's hitting in the 280s right now at AAA and can play a multitude of positions. He's playing third base now. You know he can play second base, and he's played a little bit in the outfield. He's basically a Castro.
The question becomes, and you know, we got a text yesterday about Scope. And because Scope was in the cleanup spot for the first game, and I'm like, they're betting on the correction.
Yes, they are.
They're betting on that when this guy gets back, because he's the one that has the track record that is most, like, he's underachieving more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So the feeling is this guy's going to bat 400 for a 2-week span. He has also been the victim of some great defensive plays, maybe more than any other player on the Tigers. I mean, the one that I'm really, truly concerned about is Akil Baddoo, who's got to turn it around, because Akil Baddoo last year was such a surprise because it was out of nowhere. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the highest level he played at was single A, right? Then he lost a year to the pandemic, lost a year to injury in the inverted order. Yeah. And the Tigers took him as a Rule 5 guy, and he played out of his mind last year. And in Rule 5 draft, you have to keep the guy with the big club all season. And he had 260. He stole some bases. He hit for some power. Can't remember what he had, 15 home runs or whatever it was. 13 home runs. And now he looks like a guy who the highest level he played at was A-ball.
Yeah, but, you know, are there signs with him? He has been in and out of the lineup, but the last 2 games, he played Sunday against the Dodgers. He went 1 for 3 in that game, and then he played in the first game yesterday. He went 1 for 2 in that game. Also drew a walk and scored a run.
Yep.
Some positive signs there. It's baby steps with that, but with Scope, he's in a 3 for 34 slump.
And as a bat,
that's just the last yesterday. The last 8-10 games, whatever it has been. But with you look at the whole season, it's a slump. But it's even worse when you look at it just a smaller last 2 weeks. They've got so many guys that are underperforming right now. It's not even funny. I mean, and then they've had guys that started bad and picked up. Tucker Barnard couldn't hit anything, and now he's hitting like 300. Like, who saw that there was going to be that much of a correction? But Cabrera's calmed down. He's hitting 257, which is about what he did last year. If he stays there, I'm cool. But be nice to see him hit some extra bases here, not just ding some singles all over the place. Because if he's going to do that, he doesn't need to be hitting 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. You need to find something else for him.
Since the 13-0 win over the Rockies, these are the Tigers' run totals: 2, 2, 4, 0, 1, 1, 5, 3, 3, 2.
Yeah,
it's been an awful stretch. It was on the calendar, though, coming up shortly, that they broke out and scored 40 runs in a 6-game span, and we're kind of getting back to that point.